Good morning and welcome to IBC 2016. I'm Joe O'Halloran, Editor-in-Chief of Rapid TV News, and I'm here with Sylvain Thevenot, Managing Director of Netgem. Sylvain, welcome to IBC.
Morning.
It's been a great year so far for online video and the broadcast industry. What do you think are the key dynamics and trends?
We as Netgem have been in that video TV service business for 20 years now. It's our 20-year anniversary and working exclusively with telecom operators. So we always look at the world of video through the eyes of the telecom operators. The operators have been challenged severely in their very competitive market, having to bring triple, quad play services, and TV being an increasingly challenging aspect, bringing complexity and thus a lot of cost associated potentially with the evolution of TV. So for me, one of the key evolution is the fact that telecom operators are clearly embracing new technologies such as 4K, such as multi-screen, such as obviously cloud services, but they also have the challenge of keeping the right cost model so they can keep evolving without necessarily affecting their economics.
You mentioned there the clouds. Now, one of the themes of IBC 2016 has been native clouds. Now, something you've been doing for years. Is this a core expertise of yours?
Yes, for us the cloud is a natural extension of what Netgem has always done. Originally, Netgem started with a very clever piece of software on a set-top box, providing very sophisticated and yet simple user experience for connected TV. Starting in the early 2000s with large deployments of IPTV such as 9 CGTL SFR in France, and since then 20 more operators around the world. But actually, in the last few years, what we've seen is the cloud has given us the opportunities to do three things. The first one is clearly to answer the need of multi-screen and reproduce that very same experience across a device, as a mobile device, smartphone, tablet, and a set-top box in and out of the home. So part of the logic of managing that experience obviously has to move into the cloud. Secondly, more and more content is actually coming from different sources. So initially you had mostly linear content coming from broadcast as well as IPTV. And now increasingly you're looking at sources coming from obviously some on-demand services, whether they're actually their own video on-demand stores or they could be third-party stores such as Netflix, Amazon, but also the integration of third-party applications such as BBC iPlayer or YouTube and others. So for that, the cloud brings a huge benefit whereby the operator can manage the integration of all the metadata into one place and yet providing a consistent and simple experience to the user through the set-top box application or the mobile application. Thirdly, clearly there is a cost aspect, which is clearly instead of scaling vertically with adding a large number of equipment in the network, cloud allows to actually have a flexible scaling model for the operators.
You present this world as hugely complex. How do you manage the assets within this multi-screen world? It
is complex, and yet we believe that we have one of the best user experience. So our challenge is actually to bring that complexity and turn it into something very simple. So as you know, we have gained a lot of experience over the last 20 years, and as a result, it's been praised in the last 2 years in particular for the simplicity and the fact that our user experience is very intuitive. We've actually had many awards as a result, and that's because we actually remove the complexity and take it away from the end user by working on both sides. So on the one hand, in the cloud, we make sure that we aggregate the data, metadata, whether it's the EPG, the movie database with cast and crew and everything, bring it together. And also bring the logic of how this ought to be presented, including element of personalization. And on the other hand, on the client side, so whether it's the mobile application, so your mobile TV out of home, or it's actually your TV experience, we simplify and have always worked very hard to implement some very rapid user experience, including, if you want, the ability to move from one device to another. So starting on the mobile, flicking your program to the TV and making sure everything is optimized for having the best TV customer experience.
Now, is all this going to be shown here on the booth?
Absolutely. So we're demonstrating a number of things. We've been running for almost 2 years one of the most advanced TV service in the UK, which is with EE.TV. We continue to evolve as we have a rapid innovation cycle. The product, we're actually showing some of the recent enhancements, and that's particularly strong in the context of a very competitive market such as the UK. So multi-screen in the home in particular. We've also demonstrated here what we launched in terms of a full cloud-based TV service, where unlike TV in the UK, which still relying a lot on the DTT broadcast, Freeview, in Luxembourg, for example, one of our customers, we launched with Post Telecom a full cloud-based network PVR, which in turn gives the ability to have access to all the same recordings, all the same catch-up over the last 7 days, whether you're actually in the home on your set-top box or you're actually away on your smartphone. So complete flexibility, relying on the cloud environment.
Can you scale to do that from Luxembourg to the UK?
So one aspect we're looking at is very important, is the fact that we are separating clearly, and I think it's really important, and it has given us the ability to scale, the video capture and distribution from the management of the video and what we call generally the management of the user experience. So the video assets themselves can reside, can be cached, and we're working with a number of partners that we know, such as Broadpeak, in different places, capture and distribution. However, the management aspect is something that indeed works very well in the cloud, because at the end of the day, the cloud allows the flexibility to manage across many locations. But typically the video assets themselves ought to be much closer to the end user. So we separate this, and the two, like in Luxembourg, have worked very well, but also in other markets as we are deploying in Eastern Europe, or we've done with Elisa in Finland. We are actually decoupling the distribution from the management, which gives, if you want, the best of both worlds.
Yeah, finally, like the best of both worlds, having the best of a new world. How is the world going to look in a year's time?
So clearly, we believe that, as we all know, 4K is a market-changing factor. 4K, we launched it, in a couple of markets. Is still nascent, I would argue, and mostly because we are still at the beginning of that new phase of evolution where you don't have so much content, therefore the operators are not so motivated to bring 4K to the market, or at least to invest in marketing, but they've done it to put a tick in the box, and so on and so on. And now that I believe that cycle has started to be broken, and we've seen, for example, with the rise of the OTT VOD players such as Amazon, who have thousands of 4K titles, it's starting to accelerate. So I believe, 2017 clearly we see an acceleration in 4K adoption amongst the end users, and associated with that, there is a disruptive factor, which means that there are a number of technologies that ought to be considered. As I started to explain at the beginning, we know that the operators are obviously seriously constrained in terms of capex investment. So when they look at the 4K case, they've got to be careful, because they are not so sure that the end user will pay more money than they actually do today. But what they know for sure is that they're going to have to spend more. So the question is, how do you resolve that difficult equation? And we believe that one of the key is what we have done, and we announced it last year, and we have started to roll out, is the concept of TV as a service. And telco TV, as we call it, is a way to actually remove some of the complexity of the technology and offering a much more scalable model for the operator. So not only the small to medium operators, for whom it's obvious that a TV as a service model, such as a SaaS model if you want, gives them the flexibility, because the barrier to entry is much lower. But also, I really believe that the larger operators, and we've started to see that, are seriously starting to rethink how they approach their complex technology environment in order to benefit from the pace of innovation that both 4K will bring, but also the fact that now end users expect video to come from multiple sources.
Yeah. Everywhere. Everywhere.
Yes.
Well, Sylvain, that's a brilliant picture painting the world, and hopefully we're here this time next year and we can see it. Sylvain, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for watching.